Newcastle United lose against Arsenal at the weekend, and it all comes down to the final game of the season against Everton on Sunday at St James's Park to hopefully clinch that Champions League spot. Could Joelinton be available for the game? We'll talk a little bit about that. And Callum Wilson has spoken out on his future at the club. Eddie Howe has scared a few fans on his comments with regard to Alexander Isak. Gordon is being linked away this summer to Arsenal and Chelsea. And Kieran Trippier is in the newspapers today for more off-the-field stuff. And we'll get into that. Yes, guys, how's it going? Welcome back to TOON Tuesdays, your weekly roundup of Newcastle United news. It has been a while since the last TOON Tuesdays. Unfortunately, don't quite get the time to do this every week, but it's Tuesday. There's loads to talk about, and I thought I'd bring it out as a bit of a nostalgia trip for some of the longer term viewers. I've been doing this video for like 8 years now, and if you do enjoy it, be sure to drop a like and subscribe as well. Let me know that you enjoyed this video and you would like to see TOON Tuesdays on the regular. And I've got a feeling through the summer window there will be a lot of news. So the likelihood is this will be back more and more. But let's get into it. Loss against Arsenal at the weekend was a tough one, with mixed reaction from the fans, mixed reaction for me in my own head, because at the end of the day, we don't have a great record against Arsenal at the Emirates in particular. We've beaten them 3 times this season already. 3 out of 4 ain't bad. But, we were so all over them in that first half. I think if Isak had played, we would have scored. Just so frustrating when you know that even a point would have put us into a great spot going into this game at the weekend. But it wasn't to be. Overall, I thought, especially in the first half, I thought we played really well. It was just disappointing the way it ended. Obviously, Gordon lost the ball. We'll talk about him. Isak wasn't available. We'll talk about him. Wilson, wasn't great in that game. We'll talk about him in this video as well. We missed Joelinton. So, yeah, lots stemming from that game going into this week. And we take on Everton on Sunday. And let's be honest, Everton at home is normally quite an exciting fixture between the two sides. Normally a game that I would go into thinking, yeah, we'll beat them. But when you've just got that, that extra layer of pressure, I think it's going to be, St James's Park will be absolutely going for it this Sunday. I normally say I don't like Sunday games. Bank holiday weekend, 4 o'clock. The town will be busy from 8 a.m. It will be an absolute bear pit in there. Screw the Pickford stuff, screw all that. It's concentrate time. It's get in, score in the first 10 minutes, and have a party. And that's what we all want to see. Jordan Pickford's already speaking in the media ahead of the game, undoubtedly. Sunderland actually played the day before on the Saturday in the playoff final. So, if they don't win that one, hopefully he's in a mood. So, yes, we will wait and see. If you want to get your early predictions for the game down in the comments, please do. But as I mentioned, Callum Wilson did not play great in the game at the weekend, and he has spoken on his potential future at Newcastle United. It's quite an interesting one because Callum Wilson, I think the most interesting thing that Wilson said was actually that he has been fit for 4.5 months, according to him. It's very easy to assume that when Wilson isn't featuring in our side or off the bench or whatever, it's because he's injured. Well, he actually said he hasn't been injured. The striker situation at Newcastle is a strange one, and I really hope we'll get it sorted this summer. We'll come on to Isak a little bit more and what Eddie Howe had to say on him in the last few days. But generally speaking, what we want is Isak up front, and we want to have players available in behind, if not the chance to maybe play 2 strikers every now and then would be nice. But Wilson, seemingly, just from the weekend at least, isn't quite where we need him to be anymore. You could argue with what Wilson said. He actually said, I'd love to leave football before football leaves me. I'll never let an injury stop me from playing. But I think I've been fit for 4.5 months now, and I've probably only played 250 to 300 minutes. So it's a real... I think he's trying to explain, or trying to, from his point of view, to say, look, I probably didn't play great at the weekend. Like, what do you expect when I've been available for 4.5 months, but I've had no game time? Like, he will be so out of match practice. But yeah, I think it's time Newcastle move on, and that's nothing against Wilson. He's up there in the top 5, 10 Premier League. You know, I've not forgotten about Warjackie and a few others there. Up there in the top Premier League strikers and goals for Newcastle United, which is a fantastic achievement considering he played in a pretty poor team up until the last few years. But for me, I think it's time that Wilson, moves on. And I'm hoping, it is Isak involved on Sunday rather than him. Asula comes on, possibly one of the best runs of the game when he races down the right-hand side, a couple of step over, slams it across the goal. You've got Isak, who seemingly is just not in form at the minute, or potentially has an injury, we're not really sure. Wilson, who I think's just not quite competing at that standard yet. And Asula, who Eddie Howe seemingly just doesn't like. So I don't know what Asula's been doing to not get any game time. But that situation, I think, needs to be solved this window. And another player who has been in the media a little bit is Joe Linton, actually. Talks of Joe Linton being back in time for this Sunday. That would be absolutely massive. If you talk about a lift to a side, having Joe Linton available, I think we missed him against Arsenal. I just think the presence that he brings and just that kind of dominating force was somewhat lacking a little bit. I think Eddie Howe did well in the formation changes that he made. It was great to see Botman back in the side after his potential, knock. Hopefully, touch wood, that's Botman back in action again now. If we could have Joe Linton available for Sunday, that would be pretty massive. Someone who isn't going to feature is Kieran Trippier. I will mention it, but I won't go into it. I just thought it was funny, to be honest. Kieran Trippier has been in the news. His mates, or allegedly his friends, have been in let's just say, a nighttime club and have spent some money. And the receipt had Kieran Trippier written on it. The story is said that Trippier saying, it wasn't me, it was me mate. Okay, Trippier, I just thought it was funny. The actual him being off doing that kind of thing, whatever. Trippier's injured and he's not going to feature this season. Again, I don't think he's available for the weekend, but I just thought, what do I do? I know, I'll blame it on all my mates. Good one, Trippier. But someone who we do hope is available and playing on Sunday is Alexander Isak. And Eddie Howe has spoken on the player, and I think it did give a few fans a fright. Eddie Howe was asked after the game about Alexander Isak and his future and what's going to happen next. And it's a strange one, because I think what Eddie Howe would want to do, Eddie Howe's been quite strong in his comments on certain things recently in terms of we want to increase the wages. We have no PSR issues. I want to have a big window. Like, he's been very strong. And then he gets asked about Alexander Isak, and what you want him to say is, not for sale. He's going nowhere, no plans to sell. Instead, he takes a bit of a different tact in that, and because of that, I think it has maybe caused slight concern among the fan base, but I don't think it's intentional. I think it's Eddie Howe just covering his back. So he was asked about the future of Alexander Isak, and instead of doing the things that I just said, instead what he did was say, I want a bit of, he said nothing really. But obviously in a way that made it sound a little bit ominous. And if you want to take it one way, you can take it. And if you want to take it the other way, you can take it. He said, I won't speak about players in that way. And then he kind of said, in the world of football, I'll never make any promises with regard to players and their futures, because I think for one thing, it's not up to him. We've got Paul Mitchell a step ahead of him, and then we've got the owners. It's not up to Eddie Howe, really. Obviously, he'll have a massive say on the matter as to whether he wants to keep or sell certain players, but he's it's not all down to him. And what he doesn't want to do is go, not for sale, Isak's going nowhere, And then in a week's time, the club released a statement that we are selling him, and Eddie Howe, everyone's going, well, what the hell, Eddie? Why have you done that? So basically, he hasn't answered the question, and because of that, you can run the other way. And that's what the papers have done. That's what the media have done. And obviously, the Arsenal fans, Liverpool fans, and basically every club in the world has got excited because who doesn't want to buy Alexander Isak? Saying, oh, Eddie Howe doesn't rule out the sale of Alexander Isak. It's like, well, yeah, because he doesn't want to, that's the argument. Should Eddie Howe have been bold and gone, no, we're not selling him? But that's the thing, it's there. And obviously I'm hoping that we don't sell Isak, despite the fact that his form has really dropped of late. I don't know if that's because we've promised him that, if he does play well and we get into the Champions League, then he'll get a new contract, but then because now that we're kind of there, he's just naturally kind of fell off. Has he been nursing an injury? I mean, Eddie Howe said he hasn't. But then it's just so interesting that he said he hasn't been injured, and then we don't play him against Arsenal. Is this a situation where maybe because we're just playing him so many games, he's just worn out? We didn't play him against Liverpool, and then we brought him back in and he scored the goal in the cup final. We didn't play him against Arsenal. Are we going to roll him out? Hopefully he'll be able to walk on and play against Everton at top form, top fitness. And anyhow, look at this and go, Arsenal, that's a tough one. Let's make sure we win the game against Everton. And you know what? If that's what happens, I'll take it because it gets us to where we want to go. So yes, thoughts and comments on Alexander Isak and his future. And another player in the media is Gordon, another player who has had a lot of stick for his performance at the weekend, being tagged with a £60 million value as a few teams are supposedly interested in him this summer. I think it was the Eye newspaper who wrote that with a £80 million price tag, both Chelsea and Arsenal are interested in the winger. Gordon is an interesting one because he did not play great again at the weekend. He's another player that's come out of the game with a little bit of stick. Obviously, he was the man who lost the ball, got it on the edge of the area and stuck it in the bottom corner. And it's like, for God's sake, 60 minutes of really hard work is just lost from a pass like that. But I think it's harsh. It's football, He's trying to do a trick in his own half, which, at this point in Premier League level, that's what you tell your kids not to do, not, Premier League players. But it's football. It's what you do. The argument is if you don't take risks, then you don't play exciting football, yada, yada, yada. So I get both sides of it. I just think Gordon has had a really tough season. Eddie Howe spoke about Gordon in his press conference, actually, and I was going to use the word scathing, but that's not correct. He was fairly honest in his opinion of Gordon. I've mentioned this all. As I say, Eddie Howe means business going into this summer window. He has taken no prisoners. Eddie Howe is often very quick to defend players, especially the likes of like a Longstaff. Oh, well, he works really hard on the side. And this is no dig on Longstaff. I'm using it as an example. But when it's like, Eddie Howe will be like, he's a main man behind the scenes. We'll love him in training. He delivers when called upon. Like, he's just scored 3 own goals. He scored 3 own goals and got a red card, but he's great in training. It's like, Eddie, come on. But he has changed his tone. When he was asked about Longstaff recently, he kind of said, "Oh, we're gonna see how we get on, and it's up to Sean what he wants to do with his career." So he's kind of like opening the door a little bit, like, you know what? I'm not gonna sit here and go, "Yeah, he's staying. Maybe it's time for him to go." And I think it wasn't as clear cut with Gordon, but he didn't, like he said, Gordon's had a really tough season. He spoke about the fact that he hasn't been able to get the run of games because his form hasn't been as good. So he's like, he hasn't thrown him under the bus, but he's been honest. He said that obviously the injury, the tough time he had away with England in the summer, I think didn't start him on a great keel going into this season. Haven't been like sat out on the bench for the whole time he was away with England. Gareth Southgate wouldn't play him. The whole country's calling for him to play. He's the most informed winger in the world. maybe not the world, but he was certainly in form in England. Didn't get a game, comes back to Newcastle, right, let's light it up, and just didn't really do it. He got his red card that kept him out of the Carabao Cup. I mean, he's part of a side that has won a cup for the first time in many, many years. You know, his name will be carved into the stone, or his figure will be part of the statue, or whatever the hell you want to say. But he didn't play. You know, it was Barnes who played. Barnes was the man who took us over the line when Gordon got injured. He was the man who scored the goals when Gordon's been out of form, and Barnes is, I think he was up for player of the season, team of the season. He was up for player of the month. So Barnes has been really, really good. So you've got this situation now where it was all Gordon and it was not Barnes, and now it's the complete flip side where it was all Barnes and it's not Gordon. And because of that, like, the natural comparisons will come, and Gordon, as I say, as a player, with an £80 million tag, was, you know, rumoured to be looking to head off to Liverpool last season. Didn't happen. You know, Salah signed his new deal, so you would assume that means that Liverpool aren't going to be in for him again. You know, would you listen to the interest for a player like Gordon? Especially at a price tag at £80 million, that will be double what we paid for him when Barnes is playing so well. I don't want to be fickle with it, because the pair of them are fantastic players. Like, I think I said in a recent video that if both players are on form, I would probably go Gordon. And I have had stick for it, and I appreciate it, because Gordon played and he was terrible. So yeah, I'll take it on the chin. But he is a good player when he's playing right, and I don't just want to, you know, move too quick on something when, you know, Gordon can come back around. So that's where I'm going to end it, guys. As I say, thoughts and comments down below. Predictions for the game against Everton this weekend. Would you take what Eddie Howe said about Isak seriously, or is that him just trying to, you know, sidestep the media? Gordon is one who's hitting the headlines, but I would assume Barnes back in for the game this weekend. Barnes, Isak and Murphy up front. I mean, come on. That has to be the lineup, assuming that Isak is fit. And if we could bring Joe back into the mix, that would be massive as well. There you go, guys. Thank you all for watching. As I say, hope you have enjoyed this instalment of TOON Tuesdays. Plenty to get through, and that's why I've talked for ages. So if you're still watching 17 minutes later, go ahead and hit subscribe and drop a like and let me know that you are enjoying this series, and maybe we can start to bring it back throughout the summer. Thanks for watching, guys. Enjoy your night. I will be there this weekend. I think it will have to be a vlog this Sunday. I think it has to. I'll be out early, and hopefully the celebrations will continue throughout the day and into the night. So yeah, look out for that one. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you later.